Honest J. Nowak. Oh yeah.
A pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to HGN, Flying with the Foam, and overall, some more awesomeness that will in fact be handed out to people all over the world here. Because today's subject, episode number 639, let me just say beforehand that, well, I've talked about lots of blasters out there. Lots of blasters with some unique color schemes, functions, tropes, qualities, aspects, pros and cons, and otherwise. But let me just tell you that when it comes to blasters as a whole, there aren't too many blasters that usually have more than one type of ammo to fire. Now, you could call this the modulus tri-strike. But let me just say, we already had a tri-strike blaster out there. It was part of the Super Soaker series as far back as 2014. And being that this is a blaster that came out a while later, in 2016, the tri-strike had already been trademarked to a Super Soaker crossbow with 3 barrels to fire water out of. But this right here, I just simply call it the Novatron Supreme. And, of course, the reason that this is, well, the tri-strike at first, is because, well, it fires 3 different types of ammo. It fires elite darts, mega darts, and large demolisher-style missiles. So, overall, this is pretty much it. Novatron Supreme. However, though, when you take all this stuff off, then, well, this is pretty much what you get as a whole. The Novatron on its own is pretty much what you think it is. It's a dart blaster, much like the many others that came around before it. But I'd say it's a lot more than just that. It is in fact a modulus blaster, so of course that's the main reason why it came with a few different attachments. It came with its own sort of master key, which of course just fires mega darts. And this one honestly does not really have its own name. I just call it the Rundown. And fun fact, I already talked about this earlier here in HJN, so of course that takes care of that pretty much. And well, it pretty much just sticks down to the barrel adapter of the Novatron itself, and is simply put just the Novatron and Rundown put together. Honestly, I don't really see the proportions here aligning pretty well, because, well, it doesn't really seem to match pretty good. I mean, the white and dark gray doesn't necessarily seem to combine very well because of how the Novatron's front end is pretty much all orange. The exact front end with a little bit of filleted edges that are also in orange. So, of course, I wasn't necessarily sure whether or not this is actually supposed to be part of it, but it did come along with it. I guess this was just a sort of maybe aesthetic thing that might have happened at some point. But anyways, the Rundown here is already talked about. It just fires mega darts by pulling back like so. So, that's just the Rundown. But the missile launcher, which also doubles as the stock for the Novatron itself, combined with the Rundown, creates the Novatron Supreme. Pretty much. Of course, this actually detaches like that. So this way you can attach this piece to the Novatron stock adapter and this to the top of it. So, In case you wanted to have them all together, then that's your call. Otherwise, this is typically how this is. And just like the rundown though, this does not have its own name, unfortunately. So I'm just calling this the crash course. But unlike the rundown though, this one has not already been talked about, so I guess I won't go into too much detail about it. But today's review is mainly going to be sticking around with the core blaster of the Novatron itself. Well, Novatron. Tri-Strike if you prefer, because it uses 3 different ammo types. It probably would make sense. But the truth is, the name Tri-Strike has already been trademarked to a Super Soaker. Last time I'm pretty much going to be saying that, so pretty much what this is, it's as basic of a blaster as you can get, being that it is in fact the core blaster of a bunch of other modular attachments to it. This is in fact, well, a blaster with a sort of sniper bolt like action to it, rather than being a slide that would generally be on top, much like the Recon or Retaliator or Avalanche or some other blasters here and there. But this blaster, of course, aside from having that in mind, actually does perform pretty good on its own, per se. Now, generally this actually would utilize a 12 dart clip, but like most blasters that I have, hanging on the wall, aside from a few, I do naturally have them all fitted with a 6 dart clip to make it easy to handle most of the time. Wow. It still does pack some pretty good punch into it because of its nice performance and its nice construction on the internals. But one more nice thing I probably should imply is that you can just hold the trigger down and do this. Yep. This is a blaster with slam fire. So the Sierra Major is not alone in this department, which is a pretty good thing in most ways. So I will say for sure that a blaster like this certainly does have some nice features to it, and of course it's got some, well, dirtiness to it on both sides. Plus a few marks, because I did buy this blaster pre-owned. I first bought the Novatron on its own, and then eventually going ahead to pick up both the Crash Course and the Rundown, so that way I can unite them all together and form the Novatron Supreme. So, like I've said before though, the Rundown has already been talked about, so we don't need to worry too much about that. And the Crash Course will get its own separate review at some point in the future. But until then, that's pretty much it for right now. So, overall, the Novatron is a pretty good blaster, and Modulus as a whole really has brought a lot of good things together about Nerf and amped them up to 11, or even higher than that, depending on which way you look at it. But that's pretty much all for right now here in Flying with the Foam. But if you want to see more, go down to my channel, then make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.